And Chris Paul, he says, quote, "We got to find a defensive identity. That starts with us in the locker room. We know what we do. We just got to do it. We've got to stop talking about it, and we have to figure out how to stop teams." Chris Paul frustrated. They've got to find an identity in defense. Stephen A., you like what he had to say?
I love what he has to say. He's the leader. He's the $107 million man. More importantly than anything else, Chris Paul personifies professionalism and competitiveness. He is not the most athletic dude in the world. You do not see him going out there getting abused. This dude shows up and he finds a way to be efficient and effective. That's why he's the $107 million man, and he deserves every penny, I might add. With that being said, let's face reality. This is a Clippers team that's ranked 25th in the league. How do you have athleticism on your front line with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, and you're ranked 25th defensively? It's either because you don't know how to play or because defense is not your priority. I would say they're contaminated to some degree by both. They're learning the game of basketball as we speak. They don't know it the way a Chris Paul knows it, and clearly a Doc Rivers knows it. And then on top of it all, you look at the fact that, everybody gets caught up in their ability to dunk the ball and the human highlight films they provide. And as a result of that, they're Showtime. You understand? They're hoop, they're Hoop City. So the point is, if you've got all of that going for you, that defense is not going to be your priority on every possession in a basketball game. And that is what champions are made of. They've got to have that level of focus on the defensive side of the ball. They've got to take pride in stopping dudes. Chris Paul is incredibly similar to Russell Westbrook in the fact that he personalizes challenges. I see Blake Griffin showing fearlessness on the offensive side of the ball, more so than he has in the past, and I applaud him for that. But defensively, if it ain't Zach Randolph giving it to him, it's David West or the Pacers giving it to him, anybody that's rough and tumble finds a way to be effective against him. And DeAndre Jordan doesn't see, or Hollins, I might add, who can block shots, don't seem to be providing a level of support that a guy like him needs. Hollins and DeAndre Jordan are 2 7-footers. Even though they're relatively sleek and slim, it's not like they're bony. They can get it done. They just need to focus a bit more. And Chris Paul was right to call them out because, like Doc Rivers told them, you have accomplished nothing yet. And Chris Paul needs these dudes to accomplish his goals.
I agree with you on this one. Loved hearing Chris Paul call out his team for their lack of defensive commitment. I'm sure Doc Rivers loved hearing Chris Paul, his leader on the floor, his extension, calling out the team. Stephen A., you picked this team to win the West. And I know early in the year I told you, I predicted that somewhere down the line, Doc Rivers would pull you aside at some game, maybe before or after, and say, Stephen A., I've tried my darndest to reach this team, and I can't reach them defensively. And I have so much respect for Doc. I thought he was the biggest offseason acquisition. I thought he might change the culture and the life with the Clippers, especially defensively. I'm not sure he can do it at least in 1 year. Maybe he can longer term. Maybe it'll take 2 years to do this. But it centers around a player who many would say is the most athletic player in all of basketball, the most explosive leaper in basketball, Blake Griffin. Do you realize, Stephen A. Smith, in his 4 years playing in the NBA, he has averaged 0.6 blocks per game? 0.6, less than a block a game from an explosive leaper like Blake Griffin. It's just not his mentality. You just alluded to it. I watched I think I watched every game he played at Oklahoma, and I couldn't see it. It's why I downgraded him before that draft. I said, I'm sorry. I don't see that toughness. I don't see that drive, that desire to dominate a basketball game on both ends. And I still don't see it.
Well, listen, they're going to have to do something. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to be watching them closely. I'm about to get up in them because the bottom line is they're too talented to look this lethargic periodically. I have no questions about Chris Paul. I know what Jamal Crawford is. I'm confident in what he brings to the table. He comes off the bench. He's a spark plug, okay? But you got to have some toughness from your front line in order for teams in order to instill any kind of fear defensively in teams. If they know they could go to the hole and they don't have to worry about you but so much, they're going to continue to attack, and they're going to ultimately minimize you and diminish you in stature because they're going to be in attack mode. Chris Paul recognizes this. Doc Rivers recognizes this. And if it doesn't change quickly, then the Clippers may need to do a trade, which is what I brought up earlier about Carmelo Anthony and Blake Griffin. It might be something that needs to be entertained if the Clippers don't get themselves rolling, because the New York Knicks need a box office attraction. They ain't winning basketball games. The least they could do is be a bit entertaining, okay? Yeah. All right, that's the least you could do. All right, with Carmelo Anthony and Chris Paul in the same lineup, excuse me, look out. It would be lethal. It is something that should be entertained by both teams, as far as I'm concerned. It's something that should be entertained.
And I will say, Blake Griffin is Madison Avenue, because it seems like he's in every other commercial I see, right?
Kia?
Yeah.
Still on Kia.
Yes.